Wow, I really wish we would be convening under different circumstances, but the world has just lost an amazing drummer. Ronnie Tutt, 1938, 2021. It was not the news I was expecting to hear. It's really interesting in some ways because I I was just saying that wow, what an amazing drummer he was on one of the videos, saying he was an underrated drummer, saying that he should be known more beyond the Elvis community. You know, he should be in the pantheon of all-time great drummers. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. And wow, it's just I don't really know what to say. It's just sad. It really is. I mean, relatively lived a long life, and but I think because of the timelessness of Elvis's legacy, it just it makes everything feel like a spirit of youth to it. So maybe that's why it seems like it was tragically cut short in that way. And that's the only way I can kind of really frame that. And fuck. Wow. Wow. I wish we were convening here under different circumstances. But unfortunately, we are here to mourn the loss and celebrate the life of Ronnie Tutt. Definitely not the news I was expecting to hear. It's just it was tough, and it was interesting because just one of the videos I did recently, I was kind of going on a little rant how beyond the Elvis community, Ronnie Tutt should be a more celebrated drummer. I mean, he is within the Elvis community, but more so beyond the Elvis community. And I think he belongs up there with the pantheon in the pantheon of great percussionists because when you think about it, percussionists lay the foundation of so many songs, and it wouldn't make James or Elvis or any of the other players shine as much without a good foundation. And during those years that he was with them, Ronnie Tutt just really gave them a sound that will live on forever, and couldn't be more thankful for his contribution to music. It feels like even though he lived a long life in regards to what typical lifespans are, it feels like, in a way, because I think rock and roll, there is like a youthfulness and immortality feel to it. It kind of gives you that vibe of, oh, his life was cut short in a way, like, because I think we cement people, great, amazing people within the time period where they flourish the most with their respectable craft. And Mr. Tutt, heavens just got a lot of more interesting today, huh? I just it just is really unfortunate. So I have a list of videos here that we're going to kind of walk through some of Mr. Tutt's great moments here. And there was one of the clips that Leslie supplied to, so we'll be running that. She put that on the Facebook, so I'll be reacting to that. And we're just going to kind of, well, first of all, let me welcome you here. I wish we were all meeting under better circumstances. Evan, Dylan. I know, Dylan, it's hard. Dolores, I get it. Earl, I couldn't agree more. Hey, Gordon. Yeah. Leon. Yeah. Oh my God, Leon. It's just, yeah, it's a lot to take on, so I'm going to kind of go into reaction mode here. And I'm sure some of you have seen these clips before, but I'll tell you what, I'm glad we have them here. I'm glad we have this technology here to where we can kind of congregate and watch this stuff together. And this is actually for someone who gabs on YouTube all the time. I'm finding myself at a loss for words at the moment, because this is just an amazing musical entity that, you know, if you believe in the afterlife, he didn't die, he changed energy forms. But yet we still on the physical realm feel the loss. Knowing that he was out there, even if he wasn't really doing a whole lot lately, he had some heart issues and stuff like that. It's still, it just, I think it's because we also have to reconcile the fact that people from the Elvis stable of players, those bright stars that help line the Elvis galaxy, they're not getting any younger. And we want to cherish, you know, as much of them while they're still here. And a big piece of that history has now gone into the history books as opposed to living in the present. So this first clip here, it's about 2.5 minutes long. This is Ronnie drum solo in 1977 Elvis in concert. So we're going to get down to it.
On the drums from Dallas, Texas, hard-working Ronnie Tutt.
And look how he bookended that. I mean, first of all, what I liked about that is a lot of times within the song, the drumming can kind of get lost as far as the nuances go. You kind of hear what kind of stands out the most, but there's a lot of behind the scene little beats and fills that kind of make up a whole song. And so when you have everybody else muted and you just have Ronnie on there doing a thing, which, you know, when you think about it, the eclectic group of people that he has played with over time, I mean, from Billy Joel to like Heck, I mean, Jerry Garcia, I mean, that just speaks of his just raging versatility. And there was just so much going on there with that soul. So when you take all those other players out of the equation, you're hearing something that you have to have this amazing set of dexterity to be able to go on like that, and it just is just all too cool. It just, God, let me just go and catch up with the comments here. Leon, hi. Hi, Kelly. Howard and Susan. I know. This is just Leslie. Hi, Sarah. Glad we can come together to celebrate his life, incredible talent. Yeah, you know what, though? I'm going to be honest with you. As much as I love getting together with all of you, I wish this was under better circumstances. I mean, I'm like, I don't know. It just, I think there's another thing too. And like I said, you guys can feel free to disagree with me, but I think in a day and age where music is so mechanized, it's synthesized, it comes out of a computer algorithm instead of someone pouring their blood, sweat, and tears into keeping time. It takes us back to a time where music required so much out of you to even just get in through the door of a record company. Now a machine can produce it, and I think but I will say, though, on a positive note, I hear a lot of young reactors listen to like Elvis and stuff and say, wow, this is real music. They're actually doing this, which is inspiring in a way because that kind of music is really kind of speaking out to people who have been treated to different kinds of computerized noise. But another way, the fact that they were so used to being on a diet of that kind of noise that comes across as surprising that people actually played instruments. Just but I'm just telling you, in that drum solo there was just so much. So let me see what Heaven just got a whole lot louder today. Man, Dylan, yeah, you said it right. Hi, Jace. Hello to the UK too, all my friends across the pond. Oh, it is some great drumming. Yeah, Leslie hit on a good point. A gentleman who always had time for fans, because I'm telling you what, even if you're just playing for a well-known musician or an icon, there have been lesser players who have gotten swollen heads and big egos. And I've never really heard anything bad about him. In fact, I kind of knew of him in different incarnations as well as Elvis. So, but what bothered me is that he just never was outside the Elvis community. He was lauded by a lot of famous musicians, but he should have been up there with John Bonham, on the tip of everybody's tongue. Neil Peart, John Bonham, Ringo Starr, all those greats. Ronnie Tutt deserves a place at that table, and I just hope history does it justice. I really do. Susie Q, hi, how are you doing, hon? Yeah, Ronnie and Elvis. I wish we could get like a day pass and go to heaven for a day, just to, like, if we could come back. I'm telling you what, I know where I'd go. I'm like, well, there's my relatives that I miss. There's Elvis, and well, I guess I could see my relatives when I die eventually. So I think I'll go and see Elvis and all those great musicians that passed with him. Not to trying to inject a little levity into that, but still, it's saddening because I was about to go to bed last night. It was probably about 1 a.m, and I actually saw Leslie's post, and it was interestingly enough because she said she was just getting up at the time, and I was just about to go to bed. Time zone difference. And I said, that is a freaking downer way to go to sleep at night. And I go, that is just, especially when you think of what Leon and I were just presenting to you guys. It was just eerie because, just it was always a sheer pleasure watching him. And you know what? You never heard about him being a disruptive force. First of all, too, if you're one of those egotist and disruptive forces in music, you're not going to find gigs. And when you think of the eclectic group of musical masterminds that employed him, that speaks a lot to what he brought to the table, not only talent, but being affable, being easy to work with. And wow, the world has just gotten a little darker today. Gary, back then you needed true talent, no auto-tune, no synthesizers. If you couldn't play, you couldn't be on the field, let alone Amen. Amen. Hi, April. The highest band there is, the heavenly band where all our singers have gone. Martin, hello. Well, I have a few videos here that we're gonna react to and just celebrate Ronnie's life. And I just got to set this clip up for a second. Talk amongst yourselves. Like I said, boy, do I just wish. All right. Well, here we go, everybody. I'm going to CC Rider with Ronnie Tutt on drums, the TCB band, and the Imperials. Be right back. Okay, it was very subtle in the background because the way it was all mic'd, but just listen to that little bit he did on the drums. I mean, he was very good at transitions, you know. You gotta listen for it a little bit. Now, if you played that in slow motion, you'd be surprised at the complexity of that.
Going, baby.
Wow, I mean that. What else can you say? Just amazing stuff. Amazing stuff. Just wow. It even hurts more that I watch him play because it was hard enough just to take that in mentally and emotionally and all that. But just then when you see that person in the flesh pouring out their spirit into what they're doing, it just makes it that much more heartbreaking. I'm going to tell you what. I'm going to have Leon jump on, so it's going to take me a couple seconds to set this up. So let me play a video, or no, I'm not. No, I'm not going to react to the video. That I'm going to wait a few minutes. I don't want to get through all these too quick. I want to catch up with what you guys are saying here. Hi, Joe. Beautiful noise. I like the way you said that, Susie Q. Okay. If you guys give me a minute here, I'm going to set up Leon. It'll just take me a second, guys. That's the problem about doing a lot of this stuff when you're streaming is you don't really get that quick setup that you wish you had. It'll just be 1 second. If you knew what I was doing right now, I'm just showing you how quick I am with computers because I'm designing a template for this that accommodates both Leon and myself, like as the clock is ticking here. Because I want to frame this perfectly and be able to have Mr. Tutt's image centered and stuff like that. Like I said, none of this was really planned out. And so I thank you for your patience. It'll just be another minute or so. And you have to start up Skype and everything to get people in. So this was thrown together at the last second. So I apologize that it didn't come across as polished as we could have made it. It's just I didn't want to wait a few days, and I wanted to have appropriate timing. And my Skype is acting up right now. So, of course, that's the way it goes with these kind of things, unfortunately. Okay. Okay, let me see. I hear someone. Is that Leon?
Yeah, that's me.
Leon, I wish we were meeting under different circumstances, my friend.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
All right, let me just get us in frame here. How are you doing, Leon, besides all that? How did you find out this morning?
I just happened to turn on the laptop this morning, and it was all over Facebook, to be honest.
Okay.
And I actually got a message from one of my friends that actually said had I heard, and I went, and it took me a minute or two actually to to sink in. Actually, to be honest, but I think the Elvis family one's collectively today. I think.
Yeah, it's a lot to take in, isn't it? I mean, I was not expecting this, and
Yeah.
I just, I mean, I didn't really follow his personal life. Was he suffering or something for a long time, or I know he had a heart condition.
Yeah, I think he was more frail than anything else. I think it was just that. I mean, he'd been at and I can't even remember off the top of my mind what it was. I'd seen him appearing on something a few months ago, and he could hardly lift up the drumsticks, to be honest. Such as how frail he'd got. But I think what's most tragic about when you lose a member of the band, I think the fact that Ronnie was so prominent in the band, because you can't, no matter what song it is, you can't escape the drums.
You know what? Your picture froze up for a second. Let me fix you. I don't know how that happened, or no, you're exactly right, though. I mean, it's history as we know it, and I don't know. We lost you, Leon. Let me see here. You're coming through on. Oh, there you are. Except it's freezing your picture. Of course, this never happens when we record. It just happens right now. It's just the way it is. Let me just fix you up here. Okay. Well, while I try to get Leon back, we have you audio-wise.
That's the main thing.
But, yeah, you're freezing up on me, and I hope this isn't a precursor to next weekend's live stream. That would not be fun. Let me just check again. I don't know why it's doing this. There was a noise that went off, and then all of a sudden that seemed to stop the feed, and I don't know, because I'm getting you perfectly on Skype, and I'm getting you Okay, let me just, ladies and gentlemen, I apologize. And I know this is just kind of goes with the territory when, we're dealing with limited means production wise. We're not in a fancy schmancy studio. Oh, no, you don't want two of me. God, Leon, I don't get this. This never happens when it's acting all glitchy today. Why don't I disconnect you, Leon, and then you could just link your way back in. So
yeah, sounds good.
I'm going to stop it. But no, it's just, this is the first time this has happened in the Elvis Nation, where a prominent person in the Elvis community, or at least within the 2 degrees of separation, just passed away. And there's just so many thoughts, so many things. So I'm going to kind of check in with what you guys are saying here. Now here's Leon again. Let's see if we can, hopefully this works out right. All right, Leon, I'm going to try to, no, I'm not seeing Leon. Oh, wait, okay, Skype just ran out. I don't know why. This is just a nightmare. Guys, I am really sorry about this. I got to send Leon a new link. I mean, it's just, this doesn't normally happen. I mean, I've been having interviews the last couple of weeks. Not one thing like this has happened. And then today, all of a sudden, it's like the devil or something is trying to, okay, I'm going to resend the link to Leon here. I'm telling you. I just don't get it. I just don't get it. All right, Leon. All right, we're going to try this again. Oh, there you go. You're back.
That's better.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this sucks. What else can we really say about it?
Do you know, I'm sitting there thinking, when about 6:30 this evening, so 1:30 your time, and I'm sitting here thinking, what can I write in the chat? What can I write? And I'm going, I can't even get the words at all, because no matter what you want to say, it just doesn't feel enough. Mm-hmm. Because I've always felt that, personally, that Ronnie Tutt has been undervalued throughout. I don't mean within the industry itself, because I can guarantee there won't be a prominent drummer at all who won't know who Ronnie Tutt was. But I feel in the general public, they don't know who Ronnie Tutt was. And you can go around 100 bands through the years, and they'll all know who Ringo Starr was. And you get to Ronnie Tutt, and they'll look at you and go, who? And
yeah.
And it's something that always irked me. It really did. It really annoyed me, that.
Well, me too, because you know what? When you think about it, Ronnie played with so many different kinds of musicians, different genres of music, and I'm not putting down any like hard rock drummers or anything, but your Alex Van Halen and all those type guys, they kind of played in one arena. You know what I mean? I didn't see like Alex Van Halen suddenly switch to jazz or something. And no, all due deference to all those great drummers, but this does speak of versatility.
But I think that was a prerequisite to be part of Elvis's band, because Elvis wasn't just one style. No, and I don't think if it was just one of those normal hard rock drummers, I don't think Elvis would have had much use, because Elvis, picture like that car, Leon, where you're changing gears all the time. Mm-hmm. And you have to be that engine that reacts, like goes in that direction at the drop of a coin, because you just listen to one of Elvis's, I mean, just the special we did,
they're switching gears with all these different kinds of songs. I mean,
Oh, absolutely.
it just, first of all, and so, but yet and I'm not, like I said, I'm not putting down any hard rock drummers. There's a lot of great ones, but they're kind of like only required to be one trick ponies in that world. You know, there's a typical beat you follow, you in between a fast song and a ballad, fast song and that. But you know, you have to kind of be able to wear 8 different hats, 20 different hats with Elvis. And I think that's why you're right. And I was saying that earlier. Why, you know, there's the music world, which, you know, you could go to almost any musician today, even probably a grunge player, and they'll say, oh, yeah, Ronnie Tutt's the man.
Yeah.
But only a few of them become well known by everyday music people. So in everyday music people, you think of Keith Moon, Ringo Starr, Neil Peart, a handful of others. Why isn't Ronnie's name up there?
I think it's simply because of who he played for. I think that's what I think that's what it is. I think people see Elvis and then don't go beyond that. I mean, let's be honest, how many people out with the Elvis world that aren't musicians could tell you who John Wilkinson was, James Burton was, Glenn Hardin was, Jerry Schiff. That's just the TCB band rings off all our tongues, but to the general public, it just doesn't seem to, and that's a real shame. And I think it's because primarily the Elvis overshadowed them, which in a way is right. Maybe overshadow is the wrong word, but it's always good to have on your resume that you were part of the TC band behind Elvis. Well, so I don't think that any of them, that Ronnie himself would have bothered about that. But as I say, it's a double-sided coin, because you've got the general public don't know who Ronnie is simply because he was Elvis's drummer.
Well, I agree with you. And I think another thing that's interesting about that is when you have a soloist, a lot of times, and it's kind of a flip of the coin from like the 1940s. Back then, the soloist was just a mere add-on, and it was the band that was everything, you know, Glenn Miller, all that. It kind of switched in the 50s, okay? So then, like, you know, you go to see a Barbra Streisand concert. You don't, how many people really say, who's the drummer, who's that? But here's the thing, though. This wasn't any normal backing band. And I'm not saying that out of bias. I'm saying these guys were geniuses in their own right.
But if you say to a member of the general public who don't know who any of these band members, if you ask them who the TCB band are, they'll know collectively who they are. They just won't know them as individuals. Which
they're all worthy of exploration, because that's one thing I like about like what you and I do together, because I you know, we get to pick out different, you know, in addition to kind of going over the way Elvis sounded in a song or where he went vocally, we're able to pick apart the nuances of the song. And I see it as almost egalitarian, each of them contributing a major part. And I think Elvis saw it as an egalitarian outfit. You know, we're all contributing to this amazing thing.
Yep. Well, do you know, I was thinking there earlier on that when last week's presentation we did, the last farewell, the very first thing you hear on that song is Ronnie Tutt's drums. That's the very first thing you hear on that. Is that before, even because it's just slightly before the orchestration starts, you've got that drum progression at the start of the song.
Yeah.
So it's amazing that even in the subconscious, Ronnie's always there. And I think what's also makes Ronnie stand apart as a drummer to me is that you can alluded to it, that drummers from other bands could be essentially one-trick ponies and just wing it through with it. Not that they're not talented, but they can get through the whole career like that. Whereas Ronnie not only had to try and sort of go across with so many different genres with Elvis, but the other prerequisite to Ronnie being Elvis's drummer was not only did he have to do his own job, but he had to watch Elvis all the time. Because if Elvis moved, he had to change the way he was drumming according to the way Elvis was moving. And there's so many things when you can shows when you can hear Elvis quip to him, "You've got to watch me, Tut," because he's maybe missed something. Maybe missed a bit because he was concentrating on some sort of drumming that he was doing. So that makes that, I'm sure that makes his job even harder, which is more a testament to how good a drummer Ronnie
Yeah.
Tutt was.
Oh, definitely. And when you think
Yeah.
of Leon, a lot of people don't even realize how the bass and the drum are so integral to the whole
Yeah.
execution of a song. Because think of like if you have a house and if there's one piece of the foundation that's not right, I mean,
Yeah.
that's why they call it House of Cards. It just can,
Yeah.
and I'm thinking they are the cornerstone, the most under celebrated parts of a song sometimes, but yet they're the most key components to laying that firm foundation because you got to have that good foundation of a house before you can worry about decorating the house. And you can have all the great sounds and all that, but if they're not keeping time,
Yeah.
it is just a mess. And I think sometimes it's a thankless job. And I think you're right about playing with Elvis. And I think there's a different thing too. It wasn't just like this is just a backing band. This is like Elvis going and picking the best of the best out of that field. It was almost like a super group. You know what I mean? We're going to pick the best person out for each instrument. We got James Burton, he's done stuff with Ricky Nelson. We got Ronnie Tutt, who's done stuff, And so it's not like they were just a band hanging out waiting for like, oh, we got a job to play for Elvis. This was a great assembling
Yeah, it
of
was.
the top tier musicians in the industry.
The TCB band certainly wear some of their parts. There's absolutely no question about that. And quite often, you can have a band who aren't maybe the greatest musicians, but together they are absolutely fabulous. But I think you get the best of both worlds with the TCB band. You get fantastic musicians and a fantastic band.
Yeah.
And it's honestly it's so good. There are certain performances, and actually about 15 minutes before you started, I was actually watching a performance, and I actually sent you a message about it, about it because I get mesmerised by it, and it's something that I know really well as well. But I was watching what I was watching, and I actually, maybe it's because Ronnie was in my mind after what's happened, but I was actually more concentrating on Ronnie than I was on Elvis. And I've actually found watching that particular performance of that particular song that happens quite a lot when I'm watching that it's Ronnie I'm watching. I'm not even watching Elvis. I'm always watching Ronnie throughout that whole performance, and it's just astonishingly good. And I'm so glad I watched it tonight because I had a wee tear in my eye when I was watching it.
Oh, exactly, dude. And I'm thinking too when we did "How Great Thou Art" a couple weeks ago. There was one of the recordings where I said, okay, they're finally really miking Ronnie right for that Rolling Thunder bit.
Yeah.
Because that just accented so much. And think of that like an American Trilogy too.
Yeah.
How the drumming, it just was so powerful. And not that anything else wasn't in those performances, but it takes a special person. And you know what I noticed too? He has something that a lot of drummers fail to get. He's not a show off.
No, he's not. No, absolutely not. But he's my son, who's now not long turned 20, but a few years back I was watching something, and the way that my son. Now, obviously, he's not Elvis orientated at all, not in the slightest because of his age. He's only just turned 20. But what he said was that Ronnie Tutt reminds me of Animal from the Muppets because of that pure. They're both drummers, but just that energy and the way that Ronnie moves about all the time when he's drumming. And I watched and I went, do you know, you're absolutely right. And actually, coming from him, that's actually something of a compliment coming from my son, because Animal's always seen it as a really good drummer. He's not. It wasn't a disparaging comment. And I'm watching him going, he's so right, because he's constantly moving. When you watch Ronnie, he's constantly moving, and he's got that long hair as well, and it's always all over the place as well. And
which I don't know how he did that with that. I have a hard time with longer hair.
Absolutely. It's mesmerizing.
Yeah, and do you ever, when I was looking at the special we were doing, I noticed that whenever he was always watching, like during the rehearsals, It seemed like he was watching Elvis very closely. Like he knew just when to jump into it. Like, you know, Elvis could crack a joke, and I don't know how they read him so well, because Elvis could be like, oh, telling a joke, and then, okay, let's get serious. And then he dives into the serious part of a song.
Yeah.
And they just quickly, but I noticed that like Ronnie was just very in tune with what Elvis was doing.
Yeah.
It wasn't like he had to go, Ronnie, come on, man, catch up here. Or
Yeah, you know, it's so true. And I'll tell you another one from the rehearsals that you notice that. If you remember the Little Sister Get Back medley from the rehearsal, the rehearsal one, if you watch Ronnie in that, he's constantly looking at Elvis, and the drums are he's constantly going, and you can see Elvis, and you can just see Ronnie over the corner with that distinctive sweater that he's got on with that kind of 70s pattern on it.
actually, what do you say we watch some of it?
Yeah, I think you're right.
Okay, let me go and adjust the settings, because glad that Leon taught me how to do this on Skype. So I'm going to share screen, share computer sound. All right, Leon, you should be able to see everything I'm doing now.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, I got to just, I'm going to add a screen to the middle for the video. It'll just take a second.
I really like the graphic. I think the graphic's fabulous.
Oh, Mr. Tutt?
Yeah.
I threw that together in about 2 minutes, but because I was getting ready, checking all the audio, and I go, wait, I have no visual for this. Which happens sometimes when you're putting something together at the last minute. You forget a major detail. I was worried about the audio, the miking, and everything, and I go, and I went and probably looked through about 100 pictures. And for some reason, I go, that got me out of all of them. Yeah. And I'm very fussy about that kind of stuff, almost like anal when it comes to that stuff. I got to have the best picture that speaks to me. All right, let me put on display capture. A little one, I'm going to move it to the beginning of the screen, talking about the graphic. The video is going to kind of overplay on the graphic, so that way Leon and I could be seen on the screen at the same time instead of my reaction screen. And then we'll take it off once the video ends. Okay, so it's on your, because it's on your channel. Now, you at home, everybody is seeing Leon and I just on the screen while we're typing this up. Leon has the pleasure of watching me search for this video because he could see my computer screen. And this is the Little Sister Get Back one?
Yeah, that's the one.
All right, cool. We are going to...
You know how different people and
we got to sit through a dumb commercial for a second. Sorry, ladies and gents.
presentation at the same time.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen. All right, Leon, I hope I'm doing this right. Just be 1 second. Okay. All right, here we are, ladies and gentlemen. Let's hope this goes right. Can you see it, Leon?
Yeah, I can. Full
Awesome.
size, perfect.
Little sister, don't you? Little sister, don't you? Little sister, don't you kiss me once or twice and say it's very nice and then you run. Little sister, don't you do what your big sister do? Well, I dated your big sister and I took her to a show. I went for some candy, along came Jim Dandy, and he snuck right out the door. Little sister, don't you?
He makes it look so easy, though, doesn't he, Ronnie?
Oh, it's so natural.
And he's actually doing a lot. It doesn't...
Little sister, don't you do? Shock the hell out of me. Well, I used to pull your pigtail and pinch her and turn the nose. You've been growing, and baby, it's been showing from your head down to your clothes. Little sister, don't you? Little sister, don't you? Little sister, don't you kiss me? it's very nice, and then you run. Little sister, don't you do what your big sister do. Hang it back, hang it back, get back to where you once belong. Hang it back, hang it back, get back to where you once belong. Hold your left dress on and tune on Arizona or some California. Jojo lost his ass and hang it back, hang it back, hang it back to where you once belong. Hang it back, get back, get back to where you once Get it. Get back, get back, get back to where you once belonged. Well, I dated your big sister, and I took her to a show. I went for some candy, along came Jim Dandy, and they snuck right out the door.
Sorry, Leon, I got to go back. Like, a lot of people don't realize that, but that little fill he did right there,
Yeah.
that was very sophisticated, believe it or not. And a lot of people don't get that all the fine tunings that go because they go by the thunderous aspect of drumming. But if you listen to the subtlety of the drumming, there's a lot of sophistication going on there, right, Leon?
Yeah, absolutely. It's because it's a lot more with a drum kit. It's far more easier to be heavy-handed than to be really have the really light touch and make it thing, mate. It's
And if you just look at him, first of all, like, again, my theory, there's just no show-off kind of attitude. There, he's not a braggadocio on the drums. He is simply servicing the song.
Oh, he is. I'll tell you what. I'll tell you something that I noticed a bit before that, and I didn't want to interrupt the flow of it at the time, but you know when Elvis shocks himself on the microphone, you can see Ronnie just never skipped a beat. You can see the massive smile on his face. You can see him laughing, but never missed a beat. Just kept going as if, and it's honestly that must have been so difficult because you can see him cracking up. You can see the laughter in his face.
Well, think about when you and I film something and we start laughing and then we go, "What were we talking about now?" Well, that's just us talking.
Yeah,
and yet he can just.
Yeah, it's just awesome. Honestly, and what I like about this video as well, if you look, the main camera angle that we're almost looking at just now is right at Ronnie.
Yeah.
So you can almost watch. I know it changes from time to time, but the main camera angle is almost get Ronnie in shot, and I don't know if that's deliberate because it's perfect, absolutely perfect.
I believe so. All right. We're only halfway through this, Jim, and I'm telling you what, I can never get tired of watching this.
Back to where you once belonged. Well, I dated your big sister, and I took her to a show. I went for some candy, along came Jim Dandy, and they snuck right out the door.
That.
Little sister,
I wish they showed him during that part.
little sister, don't you? Little sister, don't you kiss me once or twice and say it's very nice and then you run. Little sister, don't you do what your big sister do. Little sister, don't you do what your big sister does. Hang it back, hang it back, get back to where you once belonged. Hang it back. Get back to where you once belonged.
Oh.
Get back, hey, get back to where you once belonged. Hey, get back, get back to
That's it, Leon.
Yeah.
Do you notice how he even limits his arm movement there? He's not trying to make a spectacle out of himself. But yet he's killing it while looking like he's not killing it.
Little sister, don't you? Little sister, don't you? Little sister, don't you? Kiss me once or twice and say it's very nice, and then you run. Little sister, don't you do what your big sister done. Take it back, take it back, take it back the way you once belonged. Take it back, take it back, take it back the way you once belonged.
But you can see that he's feeling it.
Yeah. But okay, I'm going to go back a second, Leon, because if you notice,
Take it back.
every now and then he kind of looks down to get into what he's doing, but then it's like he looks right back up to Elvis and follows where he's going with it.
Back the way you once belonged.
But, you know, very intuitive drummer.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. But you can see the facial expressions that he makes as he goes along. He's expressive in a non-physical way. If that makes
Yes, no, I get that. Yeah. No, you're totally right about that. And
At Kroger, we put sensors on
okay,
our
Brent, stop that video. I hate those ads after videos because I'm still in the spirit of what I just listened to, and then that just floods it out, and I hate that. But yeah, just wow, what you know? Isn't it weird when you think that someone had just died, but yet you look at them and you say, this feels so very much in the present, even though
It does. Yeah.
it was so long ago that it was filmed. I felt like we were right there. Like it felt very present. And I know
Yeah, I
that
think it
might sound
feels
silly.
timeless.
Yes.
It feels timeless. Yeah. Yeah. And again, it's something we should be so grateful that things like that were caught on camera, because that they're preserved. And I think that I'm just hoping. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm sure Ronnie has his place, and I just hope as time goes on that he gets more and more recognised for being the drummer that he is. I find it very difficult to use the word "was" when it comes to Ronnie.
You notice we haven't said "was" a lot. We interchanged it with "is."
Yeah. It's very difficult to think that he's no longer with us.
Yeah, it's Leslie in the comments. Leon says Elvis was very proud of the band.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I'm telling you what, I've heard stories of other artists sometimes disrespecting the band, making people quit because of that artist, either diva streak or something. And yet the fact that they carried on as that band beyond and stayed involved within the Elvis sphere of things, that's a testament to the great working relationship, you know, that he had with them.
Yeah, no doubt, absolutely no doubt. I think that Elvis and James Burton, they both deserve a lot of credit, because obviously it was Elvis got James Burton, and then James Burton got the band together and then they had to audition for Elvis. And when Ronnie came in for his audition, Elvis knew almost right away, because of the way that Ronnie was playing and the way that Ronnie was watching Elvis and that sort of thing. So I think Elvis knew right away. It was. I think James Burton obviously knew who he wanted to get into the band, because the first thing that Elvis did was appoint James Burton. That was the first thing he did, because he wanted James Burton right away. Yeah. And then he said to James, right, you go and get who you think.
But he trusted his.
Of course he did.
His instincts and stuff. And Leslie says DJ Fontana said drumming for Elvis was like drumming for a stripper, having to watch every move Elvis made. Ronnie had to do that and play such a wide range of material. Now that's like what we were saying earlier, Ronnie had to switch gears all the time.
Well, do you know, it's funny. Leslie should say that, because this is the distinction I've always thought between DJ Fontana, and then you have Ronnie Tutt. DJ Fontana never played a drum kit that size with Elvis, especially on stage. That expanded drum kit that Ronnie Tutt had was never something that DJ Fontana basically had. I think a snare drum and the bass drum, and that's basically about it. Whereas Ronnie's got that whole complex where he can do those full drum fills. But I mean, that's not nothing. Not to say anything bad about DJ Fontana at all, because DJ Fontana has his own place in the Elvis history. Because DJ played through all the movies, all the soundtracks. He played Hound Dog, Blue Suede Shoes, All Shook Up, all these early tracks. But I think Ronnie managed to take the music one step further as far as the drumming was concerned.
Oh, I mean, big time agree. And yeah, Elvis is reunited with him. I mean, I just... Yeah. Well, a couple people had to leave, and we do thank you for showing up and paying your respects. Not that this was an official funeral or anything like that, but I just threw this together. I just thought I didn't want to wait a few days. I just said, considering what we just did, Leon, in our most recent project, I just thought the timing of this just...
Do you know, I saw what you wrote this morning, that you just basically put it up, and then that was it. It suddenly, you heard the news just straight after putting it up. And that must have been, and I heard what you said at the start about the fact you just before you went to bed, and that must have been really deflating going to bed with that news.
Yeah, and I, like Leslie said, she got the news waking up. I don't know which is worse. I guess they both suck, waking up to it or going to bed to it. Because, I was right in the middle today of like editing the next Elvis Nation show. So I was kind of, or last night, and then all of a sudden this came, and I'm like, it's like everything, the brakes just get floored or something. Yeah. Like everything we thought we were working on and everything, it just, and I mean, not that it's totally unexpected. I mean, it's not like he was 50 or something, but,
sure.
But like we said, when you see all these videos, there's a spirit of youth in them, a spirit of immortality. And I think that's why it still comes as shocking, even if they're 81, 82, or 85, because we have that.
I think, and not only that, but the fact that Ronnie, up until a few years ago, had still been touring with the TC band and what the Elvis concert, I think he seemed so effervescent.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's only 5-6 years since I last seen him on stage with the Elvis concert, and it's really hard to imagine that somebody who is so energetic, and you look at Ronnie Tutt, you think, yeah, that man's immortal. And that's just the image you get is like even Elvis. You still think that Elvis has a sense of immortality in your head, and even Elvis been gone all these years. Sometimes you think it's difficult to accept, because every time you turn on That's the Way It Is or Elvis on tour, he's there, and you can still see him. And I watched Michelle did a lovely video on the Madison Square Garden press conference. And you're looking at Elvis there, as fit and healthy as ever been, talking. You're thinking, this could have been yesterday.
Yeah.
This could have been yesterday. And it's the same with Ronnie. You see Ronnie on stage with Elvis, and it just doesn't feel like all those years ago. But as you say, heaven, as Dylan said way back at the start, that heaven's definitely going to be much, much louder now.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think. Yeah. I don't know. It just like, here's one of those things. We all know that none of them are getting younger. Yeah. This is eventually going to happen. And sometimes when you get in your 80s, they kind of all go around the same time, it seems, well, within a relative few years span.
Yeah.
And it's just, you don't want to admit that they're getting that age, because there will be a day where like James Burton will just no longer pick up a guitar. And I just, it's bittersweet, but it's so true to life. I mean, I was just talking to Dylan. I go, there's going to be one day if this, if I'm doing this for 20 some odd years, there's going to be another time where I'm just going to be like, you know what, I'll do something every now and then, but I got to turn over the Elvis Nation to someone else because I can't, it's life. You got to think about those things down the line. I'm not going to have the energy to like put out videos 25 years. Maybe I will. I don't know. But, and it's a sobering reminder.
It is.
There's
absolutely no question.
And I think that's the weird thing about it, because like when I had relatives that died in their 80s, I was like, oh, well, that's sad, but they had their run. And I think the difference is music is such a vital force of nature that you created something that was very vibrant, something that was very living, pretty much organic to the ears. Mm-hmm. And it's almost hard to believe that someone that created something that turned on so many people could possibly fade into the ether of life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's why I got 20 times more shocked at that than one of my grandparents dying in their 80s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you're right. And I think, as I said before, I think the fact that you can't listen to any song, whether it be live or in the studio, that Ronnie played on, and you no matter how difficult, much you try, the drums are always there.
Yeah.
They're always prominent. No matter what mix you have, the drums are always there. You can fade the piano out slightly, you can fade the bass down slightly, but the drums are always there. So I think that Ronnie always seemed to be the most prominent. And if you look at where Ronnie was on the stage as well, and do you know, I was watching when we were watching Little Sister Get Back there, I was actually watching, and it's something that comes to me constantly, that I think that Elvis set up that rehearsal studio the same way that he had the band on stage. They're all exactly in the same place. And then you've got Ronnie front and centre on that. I know that's usually where the drummer is.
Yeah.
But he's just front and centre right behind Elvis all the time.
Well, and it was it the Astrodome where that he was confined to that like glass cave? But if you look at it, you can't see Elvis on that stage with him behind him like that. Yeah. It's part of the iconic history of where there was Elvis, there was Ronnie in that picture, in the pictures of that concert. And if you're okay with it, Leon, I want to show another clip that was sent to us.
Yep.
And let me just maximize it right here. Okay, and let me begin. Like I said, you got to be fast with this kind of stuff, and I'm not the world's fastest guy. When I do videos, I get to edit all this crap out of me starting up the video and all that fun stuff. All right, here we go. There might be a commercial before this.
I started noticing losing my hair in my 20s. I was like, yeah, my hairline.
Okay, this is Elvis Presley having fun on stage with Ronnie. This is November 15th, 1970. So let me maximize it. Short, but boy, did that speak volumes. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that was in San Diego, by the way. That was
San Diego?
San Diego, yeah. Yeah, and that was at the end of Suspicious. I think it was the end of Suspicious.
I could tell by the last few notes. Dung, 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 dung. Yeah.
Yeah.
He had to be quick on his feet, though. Look at that. I mean, he just adapted to what he was reading. Elvis.
Yeah.
Isn't it funny how you didn't even really see Ronnie, but you knew what he was doing at that moment? Absolutely. He was connected with Elvis, and he just, was that synced perfectly.
Yep.
I mean, go ahead.
That's just the way it had to be. And I think, as I said, as I go back to what I said about the audition, and that's what Elvis saw right away with Ronnie. That the two of them were in sync right away. and and you just can't imagine Elvis. I can imagine that even if you take John Wilkinson and James Burton out the TCB band, I think you could find another guitarist, and you could another two guitarists, and that's nothing. And I think James Burton is a fabulous guitarist, but I don't think that you would have had a bass player in Jerry Schiff and a drummer in Ronnie Tutt so compatible with Elvis, because there's Jerry Schiff bass playing drives on so many songs on stage, as does Ronnie's drumming.
Yeah, you're right. It's almost like being just a general doctor, practitioner versus a specialist.
Yeah.
Okay, these were not your family doctors. I don't know what you call them in where you're at, but we call them like general practitioners or family doctors. But when they become specialists, this was a specialty. You could not, anybody could just walk in and fit that within that nucleus. And I think you're right. Such an indelible mark that was left. And I think, Leon, in a weird way, like we're kind of in shock about that first, because it still takes about 24 hours for that kind of news to set in. Do you know what I mean?
It does. But would it surprise you to know that Ronnie really wasn't in that many recording sessions with Elvis? Would that I mean in the studio, would that surprise you?
Mm-mm. No, because he was with Billy Joel, a few other, he had other gigs going on.
Yeah, absolutely. It wasn't. I mean, if you take away the the studio session from 1972, then the first time they really got together in the studio, the whole TCB band, was Nashville in 1975. So essentially, the last two recording sessions of Elvis's life were the only time where the whole TCB band were there. Before that,
I even knew that before I did the Elvis thing. I mean that was kind of a well-known fact, I think. But I think some people who might not really be familiar with Elvis at all still might be lost on that a little bit, because people sometimes have a hard time parsing between the live touring and residency shows versus the studio recordings.
Yeah, James Burton was at all the recording sessions. He was always there all through the 70s. But it was tended to be the same. But it would tend to be session musicians that Elvis had in the recording studio, the same ones all the time. It was, but it's just that Ronnie is such an integral part of that live show, and it's because we watch so much live stuff that every time we watch something like that now, we're just going to be saying, Ronnie's not there anymore. Ronnie's not here anymore. You know, it's because you watch every time a member of the TCB band goes away, and then you watch them, you think, well, another one away. But it comes to us all, doesn't it?
It does. It's funny because when you're, what they say, when you're 18 or 16 to 30, you actually have an immortality complex. You get death, but you kind of almost feel as it will never happen to you. I'd say once you hit 40, there's that first feeling, okay, it's not going to happen anytime soon, but it is real.
Yeah, half my life's gone already.
Yeah, it's in the offing, and that's assuming I make it. Like, okay, I have to live to 100 to be at the halfway point right now or something. I'm like, that is not going to happen, my friend. So there are, I don't know, I wouldn't want to live to 100 anyway. So, but, they used to have a joke about, oh, you should quit drinking, quit smoking. They go, yeah, you'll lose years of your life. He goes, yeah, but it's usually those 80 to 95 years that aren't that great to begin with, I'll be losing. So I'm not endorsing to go out with a bang and do what you want, but no, because I'm thinking, oh, wow, you mean I might not be able to be 95 and confined to a wheelchair and And I also went through this other thing about death, because when my sister and I were taking care of my mom, I said, it's starting to hit me that I was only going to be a father one time, but there was a miscarriage, and it just never happened after that. I said, it's starting to kind of, I said to one of the nurses, I have regret now because it just hit me when I hit that age. Who in the hell's going to take care of me? And she said something that was the saddest thing I've ever heard. She goes, do you know how many people in these homes have family that never come to visit them? They just drop them off there. She goes, so I'm telling you what, just simply having kids, I didn't mean to go off on that tangent, but in the sake of mortality, it's there. It's, you know, and I hate to say it, but as we get older, we're going to get used to this news more about people.
Yeah, do you know that's always been a sign that people, when people start to die, you go and you start to get shocked by the fact that they died because you've grown up with them.
Yeah,
and that's when you start to become almost aware of your own immortality. Oh
yeah, I've had a couple of friends. My best friend died at 35, and that was really sobering. And I've had a cousin die at 48. You know, so I've had like these young deaths that have crossed me so many times, and I hate to say it, but I'm used to this by now, and I wish I wasn't used to that. Yeah. But I'm telling you what, though, I'm not superstitious, Leon, but I am already behind the scenes setting so many things up that if something were to ever happen to me, making sure that the Elvis Nation moves forward. Okay. Not saying there's a plot to murder me or anything like that, but I am putting up things in the background because if I don't make it to 70 or something, I want to make sure that this thing lives beyond me because, I think about a lot of people right now, they're the current Elvis Nation crowd, but there's going to be someone who's not born yet that might want to begin their Elvis education 25 years from now. I want them between, your channel, my channel, even Michelle's channel. I want them to have a good place where they can get plenty of resources to kind of get the fullest Elvis picture. And I'm going to say what I said on an email to Leon, and I don't know if you guys are going to agree with me, but I thought what works so well with Leon, Michelle, and myself, and this is just my perception, I could be wrong, but I'm going to ask you guys out there. I think if you were to look at the trifecta, Leon is the brains, Michelle is the heart, and I'm the flesh and blood, I guess. And not that there's not overlap. Do you know what I mean? But yeah. I like how we each kind of bring a little bit of a skewed focus compared to someone else to this. Yeah. And I mean, because you're like a professor, in my opinion. You could teach this stuff at university, man. You totally could. And you would bring so much awareness. I guarantee you could probably outdo any one of those teachers. Any professor there, man, who would profess Elvis knowledge. You could just march right in there, send them packing.
I don't know how many people would attend that class, to be honest.
Are you kidding me? I would die for it. I would just like, oh man. But it is a sad day. It is it's one we're going to remember for the rest of our lives. And so I'm going to check in and see what everybody in the peanut gallery is talking about here. Yeah, I accidentally hit a button and Gordon said something funny. He goes, instead of seeing you and Leon on the screen, I saw you search for the video you were trying to play. Yeah, I accidentally hit a key and it showed my screen of me. Hey, that's real behind the scenes magic, man. It's not all gloss with Leon and me. There's hard-edged realism behind our pristine presentations. In fact, I think that gave us like an unplugged kind of feel. You don't just get to see the glitz and the glamour that Leon and I command. You get to see the real nitty gritty of the not so perfect. Well, I got to tell everybody, I'm trying to bring a sense of levity into this because I could get very sad right now. But I joke with Leon because I finally found out a way that Leon could see what I'm doing. And Leon said, well, just to let you know, I can see everything on your screen. I go, oh no, I got to hide the porno. And I'm joking, of course. But that's this technology, though. And it's so cool, though, because we were able to iron out a lot of these kinks, except for what happened today. And and I'm not trying to promote anything, but I think, Leon, this is the way I'm looking at it. I think what we're going to be doing with our presentation next Sunday is going to be cathartic in a lot of ways.
Oh, wow. Yeah, same time as this next week. It's just going to be absolutely awesome, and I think the fact that what's going to be good about next week as well is we can always continue in a way. There's tribute towards Ronnie onto next week as well, because so much of next week's presentation will be visual, and there'll be so much we can watch Ronnie at the same time, and so much we can comment on Ronnie at the same time as well. So because Ronnie obviously of what we're doing next week is Ronnie's such an integral part of that.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Oh, and I don't mean to backtrack, but when I said that thing about you're the brain, I'm the flesh, but I notice in Dylan, the more we got to feature him, he kind of has a combination of all of our traits. And I'm going to tell people right now, they did not take our 3 DNA samples and make one 18-year-old kid out of this. But because I noticed that Dylan has the intellectual encyclopedia kind of thing going on. He has the heart thing that Michelle has going on. And he has that lively thing, that craziness that I have going on. And I just watched him doing Elvis perform tribute artist show yesterday. And it's just very, and I'm telling you what, I don't like to, put people on pedestals, but I'm so glad, because to me, Dylan, as well as being a great guy, he's also symbolic of that younger crowd that just makes me so giddy to know that they're liking Elvis, that it's going to live beyond us, Leon. That makes me feel good.
Yeah, because none of us want to think that we're going to be the last. You want more Elvis fans to follow in your footsteps. You don't want to be the last generation of Elvis fans. You want to know there are almost as many as you, to pass on to keep Elvis's memory alive. Certainly, and that's what's important. That's why people like Dylan are really important.
Oh,
and it's also
big time.
The reason it's good to see so many other people reacting to Elvis videos, even, and I know a lot of them are doing it maybe just to get views or whatever, but the point is that they're still doing it, which means other people are still watching Elvis. And
the conversation's still taking place.
Yeah, exactly.
It hasn't died down at all. And you know, and it's funny because I look at this as like, it's not really me. I'm like the reactioneer, but there'll be other reactioneers like James Bond. I'm like Connery. There'll be a Roger Moore after me. There'll be bringing their own unique thing, but still the same misogynistic, womanizing thing that I bring to the table. And I'm just joking, everybody. I need a money penny out there. Is anyone willing to like take up that role? You know, we could have that on screen, like kind of flirting that goes nowhere. No, but in all seriousness, though, I plan the Elvis Nation. It's, you know, it's, I wanted to, if it doesn't live beyond me, then I'll know I did something wrong. That's the way I see it. Yeah,
absolutely. I totally agree. And I get as much pleasure from hearing young Elvis fans talk about Elvis than I do from listening to guys like ourselves who kind of in the middle-aged group, because it's good to know that Elvis is still relevant. And well, that's what's...
Yeah, and they had more of a curve because we kind of grew up from parents who were either part of early rock and roll or World War II, or not World War II, but baby boomers around, you know, if your parents were born between like 46 and like 60, they were part of that rock and roll generation. So there was a little hand-me-down to us from that. But a lot of people our age really don't go back as far as heavy metal or something. And so, but we still had a little bit of it handed down to us. So how many people our age are handing down Elvis to their kids? So we had a little advantage as far as the subsequent, but they have YouTube.
Well, how old is classical music? And it still plays, it's still popular.
Oh, yeah.
So Elvis is kind of, with you take like Elvis and the Beatles, you take them at the top, being at the top end of music, and their music's going to live on. I reckon their music will live on forever.
Oh, Leon, this just made me feel good. Joe in the comment section, her grandson, I'm assuming, is it Joe? Is it a male or female? There's just a picture of Elvis there. But it says, my grandson is 9 and he loves Elvis. I have 4 children and love him also. He will live on forever. You did a great job passing it down. That's great hearing that a 9-year-old is into that.
That's so good. I mean, that really is. And it's heartwarming. It really is.
Well, and you know what it is? I know it sounds weird because I'm going to make a confession. I'm an introvert, okay? I never I didn't even want to really go on camera when I first started doing videos, but I thought it would be a good therapeutic thing. And so I look at like a lot of this as I want to preserve Elvis's memory, because I don't have like a little, I want to be popular or anything. That is so not me. In fact, it took a lot for me to kind of overcome a lot of things just to be able to get on camera and do that. But with this, it's preserving Elvis's memory. But one of the main things I want to do with the Elvis Nation, not only give the people in the present something they could do with, like you, with a bunch of top Elvis minds of the world, contributing to stuff. But also, like I said, I want to give people that starting place, because I tell anybody between my channel, Leon's channel, Michelle's channel, you got your perfect start to an Elvis education.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're getting a lot of different aspects of it. You're getting, and that's what I want to do. I want to make it comprehensive, and that's why I think it's important that we Elvis content creators, while we have our own little kingdoms that we set up, it's cool that we collaborate on things, because it strengthens the chain of, I get some people that say, oh, I came here because of Leon, and, he did something with you or something that brought me here. And I want you guys to say, oh, well, someone came from Brent's channel or someone came from Michelle's channel. I just had some people the other day said, Michelle mentioned the interview she was doing, so I hopped on over to your thing. And, and I'm saying this dead serious, dude. If YouTube outlawed monetizing, and first of all, I'm going to be honest, I made like $8 off of this in the last month and a half. So we're not sitting in golden palaces, and I'm not trying to virtue signal here, but I think some people don't really understand the finances involved in it. You got to almost have like 100,000 subscribers before you really see anything substantial come in. And I'm telling you, if they outlaw monetizing tomorrow, I wouldn't change a single thing about this channel.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't see this as work. I don't see this as, my reaction to your channel. I kind of have to jumpstart that a little to kind of, that's kind of more my lifeline. This is a 100% passion project. In fact, on a lot of videos, I don't see any money off of this. Yeah. So this is a labor of not love, but a labor of passion. And, but it just, I don't know. Leon, I think I'm rambling because it's still very hard to deal with death.
Of course it is.
So we start talking about other things, and but it's just like,
we find that's how we find comfort, though.
Yeah. I think it is.
You think about, you go to a funeral, and then you go to the wake after the funeral. And then what you do after that is you sit and have conversations, and those conversations end up, first of all, they start off talking about the person, and then they become more funny stories. And then you start going off in tangents about other things, because that's how you get comfort and that's how you feel comfortable. So because we start with Ronnie and we move into another direction, that's not being disrespectful to Ronnie's memory at all. It's just simply a case of that's where the conversation has led.
Well, yeah, and it's hard enough to deal with death, but we're also, you and I are under a microscope right now. We just can't go and let our feelings into a Kleenex or a tissue and just start, because it is very sad to me in a way, because we're seeing a piece of Elvis history going, and it's sort of like reminding me, now you got to work that much harder. As the more people that were around within the Elvis universe, the more of them that get older, and pretty soon all what we're going to have are the videos and interviews they gave. And you and I, like 20 years from now, we're going to be the older people, like talking about this stuff, right? And I just, wow. And it's just because I think it hits us because, we were like, I think you're like 3 years younger than me. Yeah. You were very young when Elvis passed away.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. We were on the tail end of that current Elvis picture at that time.
Yeah.
But now we're getting older. So the babies that were around and the toddlers that were around when Elvis passed away are in their 40s now.
Yeah, see, I think we're getting to the stage, to put another analogy, where you're getting to the point now where there's no longer anybody available alive who fought in the First World War, and now
Yeah.
there's very few alive who were alive during the Second World War. I think you're getting the same with Elvis fans as well. The amount of people who saw him live, the amount of people who were able to experience Elvis is getting less and less and less and less. But the fortunate thing is that through different mediums, whether it be video or whatever, we can keep Elvis relevant and keep him alive, so people can still see what Elvis was and what he was to everybody.
That's very poignant that you mentioned that, because I remember when I was younger, you know, people my age had grandparents from the World War II generation. In the 80s, there were just plenty of them. You know what I mean? There was just so many of them. And I remember hearing, okay, the last World War I soldier that was registered had passed, American soldier. And I remember thinking, wow. And I'm thinking, we're going to be around to hear the news of the last World War II soldier, whether it's a British soldier, whatever, Allied soldier, no matter what, gone. And I know that's normal. And, you know, I remember as a kid meeting someone who was born in 1895, and, you know, a person was like 82 or something. And I'm thinking, that's the age James Burton and Ronnie Tutt. You know, Ronnie Tutt was what, 83? No, wait, 30, 80. He was going to be 83 this year. And I'm thinking, when I met this person, like in the late 70s as a kid, this guy was born in 1897. My grandfather was born in 1902. And so this is a normal thing, but it doesn't make the sting any less painful.
No, it doesn't. No, it definitely doesn't. Definitely doesn't. Definitely doesn't. But well, why
we have one of those "what are you gonna do" moment? You know, when people, do you ever notice that when you hit that impasse at a funeral? Well, it was sad. What are you gonna do? You know. So why we have one of those "what are you gonna do"? I'm gonna. There's another clip here. Someone, if you're okay with sticking around for this one, Leon.
Yep.
Okay. Ooh, I can't play. This is long. I think I'll save this for a special. It was an interview with Ronnie Tutt, but it's like 44 minutes long, and it's a little long for this kind of thing, what we're doing. But maybe on an Elvis Nation episode, run it. What's your thoughts?
I would put it up as a standalone video as soon as possible.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. That would be the best way to go. And see, that's another thing. Sometimes when you do these content creations, you don't know the best way to steer the ship, because I thought, okay, well, when I record the Elvis Nation show, I recorded most of it, but when I do my bits, I'm going to say, okay, we want to, you know, celebrate the life of, you know, and I'm thinking it would just seem like too long to wait till Wednesday.
Do you want a video?
Sure. Yeah. Punch it up.
Right. What I'll do is I'll stick the link into the chat bit on bit on Skype. Share link.
Or you can do it on Facebook. I have my Facebook open.
You go to Facebook? I'll just do it.
Yeah.
Facebook then. That's fine. I'll just stick it in Facebook then. That's fine. There we go.
Awesome. All right, guys. I'm going to load this. It'll just take a second. I got to make sure I don't hit a button so people see the right thing.
This is the one I was watching this afternoon. So there are so many good shots of Ronnie in this, and that's why it's so good. There are so many, and then this is the one that I mentioned before that my son had likened Ronnie Tutt to Animal from the Muppets.
Okay, here we go. And you could see this, Leon?
Yep.
All right.
We got to patch it up, baby, before we fall apart at the seams. We got to patch it up, baby. We can't let time unravel our dreams. Let's go back and touch the past. One more night is all I ask. Get that feeling, that old feeling, feel it healing. We can patch it up, baby. We can patch it up, baby. We can patch it up, baby. Patch it up with a whole lot of.
Okay, I hate interrupting, but I want to point out some key components to everybody, Leon.
Yeah.
You know, people are focusing on the guitar where Elvis goes, but listen to that transition there. And it's subtle, but there was just a lot of what Ronnie was doing there. It was complex, even if it might sound simple to the human ear.
Oh, got to patch it up, baby, and sweep out all the cobwebs of our heart. I got to patch it up, baby, before indifference pulls us apart. Let's don't let a good love die. Let's give it just one more try with that feeling, that old feeling. Hit it, hit it. We can patch it up, baby. We can patch it up, baby. We can patch it up, baby. Patch it up with a whole lot of. We can patch it up, baby. We can patch it up, baby. We can patch it up, baby. Patch it up with a whole lot of. We got to patch it up, baby. We can patch it up, baby. We got to patch it up, baby. Patch it up with a whole lot. We got to
That's
patch
three
it up,
glances at
baby.
Ronnie in the last couple of minutes there.
What's that, Leon?
That's three. Elvis had 3 glances at Ronnie in the last 30 seconds there.
Yeah, definitely. And two, did you notice how he heightened the intensity of the drums for that pickup there? But it just, but yet it was still tight. It wasn't trying to be showy or anything. It was totally servicing the song, being badass without like wearing a sign that says "I'm awesome."
Yeah. Yeah.
Patch it up with a whole lot. We got to patch it up, baby.
It's just amazing.
Patch it up, baby. Sing it, Charlie. Patch it up, baby. Patch it up with a whole lot of. We got to patch it up, baby. We got to patch it up, baby. We got to patch it up, baby. Patch it up.
Ah, there we go. I wish there were more shots like that, Leon.
Patch it up with a whole lot of love. We got to patch it up, baby. We can patch it up, baby. We can patch it up, baby. Patch it up with a whole lot of. We can patch it up, baby. We can patch it up, baby. We can patch it up, baby. Patch it up with a whole lot. Hold on.
Just watch Ronnie now.
Thank you. Almost. Thank you.
Well,
Wow.
Elvis didn't call him hard-working Ronnie Tutt for nothing.
No, he didn't. And you know what really got me though, Leon, is that a lot of times drummers, even when they go for those wild parts, you know, when he was doing like something that was tantamount to Animal on the Muppets,
Yep.
he still showed like a little restraint to it that other drummers go for the gaudy, flipping their sticks up there and all that. And I think that was a good drummer actually shows respect to the singer. You know what I mean? I felt like there was a stage respect there.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, do you remember the whole idea of percussion in the first place is to keep the rest of the band members in time.
Yeah.
I mean, that's Ronnie's job first and foremost. But he does it in such a way that it's as you say, it's not overbearing. But you know it's there. But at the same time, every time I watch that, for some reason I'm always watching Ronnie all the time. It's mesmer. I just find that mesmer.
Do you notice in the last couple of our collaborations, I point out Ronnie? Like, I said, because I felt like with, and that was just weird because I'm, I do so many of these videos. I'm trying to remember. There was one though, where I said that Ronnie needs to be recognized beyond just the music industry. Like, he needs to, like, I think the phrasing I used at the time belongs in the pantheon of great drummers. It should roll off people's tongues like John Bonham, Keith Moon, Ringo Starr, all of them. Now, Conrad says Ronnie would say that playing drums for Elvis was like, oh, okay, someone else stated that. So I guess that was ubiquitous about that, what he said about that. And Patch Up, just fantastic. And
I love Gordon's point. I love Gordon's point there.
Yeah.
Why are we all shaking our heads to Ronnie?
Oh, I know, right?
And it's so true. And that's what I said before. But you can just watch Ronnie constantly in that, and it's just mesmerizing. Yeah,
I just it's funny. It's the music's gonna live on forever. It's going to. In some ways, I think you have a benefit of getting into a musician after all of them are long gone, because you get that beautiful effect of their music, but you don't have to go through the heartache of saying goodbye to them.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
True.
Like Beethoven.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? There's a detachment there. As much as I love like classical music, I wasn't like I was there. I'll never forget where I was when I heard that Amadeus Mozart passed away. And but you mentioned the World War I thing. I have like such a weird, messed up, dry sense of humor. I remember on Facebook once I said, today the last American Revolutionary War soldier passed away. President Obama calls it the end of an era. Like someone goes, what? And I'm like, they go, no, there's no way that someone like that could be alive. That I go, no, I'm being stupid and silly. But I think sometimes that's weird, because what I find funny is the fact that knowing someone else is going to find it so not funny, and they almost get pissed off that you say it. I don't know why. It's sort of like the Andy Kaufman thing in me, that I want to kind of fool people or something. But now Gary says, please react. I don't know if there's a video for this, Leon, the 1977 version of Hound Dog.
There is. That
Ronnie is featured on it.
If it's from the CBS special, then there is certainly. I can give you a link to it if you want.
Oh, that'd be great if you could Facebook it to me.
Yeah.
I'm going to catch up for a second and see what everybody else is saying. That's one thing that's confusing about streaming, because I want to interact with a lot of people, but at the same time, we got to keep this flow going. And I think I want to have a stream one day where I just do nothing, no reacting, performing, just fielding everybody's comments.
Yeah, that's.
Oh, and Gary left earlier. Gary, God bless you. I like what Gordon says here. When I was younger, I wish I could study Elvis instead of the boring stuff I studied. Now that would be something with Professor Smith. I'm telling you, dude. I'm telling you. Go right to Leon. You don't need anything. You go right to him. He'll school you. And I'm telling you what, you could have. I'm not saying that just to be funny or anything, Leon. You really could have taught a college level education on this. Not only that, but you would have made it fun for everybody too.
A job you actually enjoy now. Now that would be a thing.
Yeah, but then they would fire you because they got wind that you were doing some collaboration with some idiot on the Elvis Nation Show, and they said, "How could you work with such a buffoon with all your great credentials? You really went into the gutter, Leon, by being with that idiot."
I would just tell them that I had to keep it real.
Leon's like, when I first mentioned collaboration, that goes, yes, the little people in the Elvis world. I need to throw a breadcrumb and show that I can go down a few notches and meet Brent where he's at. And I thought that was so sweet of you that when you said that, I just thought,
you have to slum it once in a while.
yes. And I remember it made my day when you said I was your favorite commenter. And that just warmed my heart. All right, Leon.
That was a moment of That was a moment of weakness, Brent. I'm sorry about that. That was a moment of weakness.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Yeah, I know. Like you said, though, I'm like, we shouldn't be laughing. But you know what, though? I think that's part of, though. This is part mourning, part celebration, you know? I mean, the fact that we're listening to this music and that we're all just totally getting into this. It's just like Dylan was saying, one of Michelle's words, divine. It just is such a divine privilege to be here, paying our respects to Ronnie Tutt. You know, we could keep saying all these great things and all that, but instead of us saying something great, we're going to watch something great right now. And let me just set this up. Okay, let's see.
I just hope that's the right one that Gary was talking about, but
we'll find out in a couple seconds.
yeah.
All right.
Thank you. You ain't nothing but a hound dog. Crying all the time. You ain't nothing but a hound dog. Crying all the time. You ain't never gonna rub it and you ain't no friend of mine. You ain't nothing but a hound dog. Crying all the time. You ain't nothing but a hound dog. Crying. Oh, you ain't never gonna rub it and you ain't no friend of mine. You ain't nothing but a hound dog. Crying all the time. You ain't nothing but a hound dog, crying all the time. Well, you ain't never gonna remember, you ain't no friend of mine. You ain't nothing but a hound dog, crying all the time. You ain't nothing but a hound dog, crying all the time. Well, you ain't never gonna remember.
Oh man.
Okay.
What an ending.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh my God, Leon. You know what? I'm thinking, what I thought was interesting is one thing that Elvis rules in is complete unpredictability. And what got me, because I've never seen that clip before, okay? He's sitting there, looks like he's just dialing in at the beginning. Almost seeming intentionally unenthused. Nothing but hound, you know. He's more into like throwing his scarves around and all that. But then they just, like an improv, they just both dive into this heaping bowl of ferocity and just, oh my God.
And you can see I was looking at Ronnie.
Yes. Oh my God. And you know, you could just feel the pulsating adrenaline there. You could feel, and you know what? Again, Elvis was having fun at that moment. Yeah. But Ronnie was like reading him. Yeah. Because, and Ronnie, you know, I think that's another thing. Like if you ever listen to the TCB band, I know it sounds weird to a lot of people, but listen to some songs. They can almost double as like jazz musicians. And I know that's a whole different universe for a lot of people out there, but I hear little moments in certain songs. I go, this feels very, I've said that in some reactions. This feels very like a little jazz intro here or something like that. And so I think not only that, but watching Ronnie, if you ever look, first of all, Leon, have you ever tried to do two things at once? And you're like, I just don't have dexterity for this. I can't.
I can't do it.
Look at his arms. Like they're not like close together and he's just watching where they're there. He could have one way over here, one way over here. And not only that, but using your feet too, you got to have two full arrangements going on to make one sound.
Well, do you know, Brent, from I was, when I was at school, I was doing music, and I wanted to play the drums, and the music teacher had said to me, right, come on, try. And I says, and I think I'd made a quip about, I'd like to play drums, it looks easy. It looks easy. And honestly, trying to get my foot going at the same time as my hand, and no, can't do it. No, the fact that your foot has to stay in time with your hand and the toe, no, because you've got your feet working as well. What you can't see from the front is that your foot is working the bass drum, and also working some of the cymbals as well. So you could, and you're going like, no, can't do it. No, can't do it.
No, and each have to have their own little individual. So he's not keeping one time. He's keeping sometimes 4 different times at once.
Yeah.
And that's what I want people to understand about what Ronnie was doing. Because I think a lot of people just don't look beyond the enjoyment of a song. Hey, I liked it. It sounded great. But sometimes they don't understand the fine mechanics. They think it's someone just going up there going, I mean, no way. There are some people that do this for years that cannot. I mean, I remember hearing about some people that would go to like university, they would do drum, and they were still told they just weren't good enough to be in some bands. That Pete Best of the Beatles, they got rid of him because, and a lot of people thought he was a great drummer, and you could be a great drummer and still not be good enough to be in an amazing band.
Well, do you know, fun enough, when what you were saying there, when you listen to Elvis's performances of Trouble. And I don't mean Trouble, I mean Trouble as in the one from King Creole. He brought that into his live show just for one season in Vegas in August 73. And at the start of that, it's Ronnie that starts that with and then the guitar comes in, but it's that gentle, almost like jazz type on the cymbals that starts that off, and I think that just kind of shows how a lot of it was down to. So, do you remember when we did the on tour rehearsals? Mm-hmm. And we did Proud Mary, and you can see Ronnie in the background. He's counting in, and he's starting it off, and I think that's where Ronnie had an awful lot more responsibility than people might actually realise with that, you know.
Yeah, his contribution cannot even begin to be assessed.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
I mean, just. And I think it's another turning page in the Elvis Presley history, the legend. Yes. And it's just, as much as I'm having a good time talking with all of you, I almost wish this didn't happen. I wish there was no reason for us to be here today. Because, God, I was thinking the other day, God, what I would not do to get any of them on my show one day or talking to them, which first of all would be a bold stroke. It was arrogant of me to even think I could pull them in or anything because, I'm sure they have better things to do. But knowing that a lot of those opportunities have slipped, because I would have loved to have just picked their brains and see what insights they had to offer. Because I think one thing that I gotta admit that I'm sure they're always glad to talk about Elvis, but I'm sure sometimes they would rather have fans who approach them, not just only ask Elvis questions, but ask about, how did you pick up the beat for this? How did you, I remember one time, my ex, she was a big Star Trek fan. Okay. I was like, okay with it, but I wasn't a geek or any of that kind of stuff. She took me to one of those conventions, right?
Yeah.
And George Takei, who played Sulu on Star Trek, was on stage. And, he's getting all these questions, in episode 14, what was the thermoflex thermometer, and all that boring. I'm sorry, no disrespect, but like, I think of that Shatner skit when he says, get a life. But, well, and I said, I actually have a question I want to ask him. And I said to Mr. Takei, I said, hi, I got a question. If there's like any character in all of theater history that before your career is over with, that you said, I'd really like to sink my teeth into this role? Is there a certain character you've always wanted to play? And his eyes lit up. Because I wasn't asking the same thing that every other mother was. I was actually asking about his acting talent. And he said he wanted to play Willie Loman from Death of a Salesman. But see, so I'm wondering, like, how many times at these signings and stuff do people go up to, like, Mr. Tutt or Mr. Burton and just go, so what was Elvis like? What was Elvis, And I'm thinking, as much as I'd love to hear about all the Elvis stuff, I'm fascinated with them as musicians in their own right.
Absolutely.
I think if I had any of them on here, I would probably ask a few Elvis questions in between just to kind of do the fan service thing. But I would want to know about, tell me about what you did in the 50s, tell me about your early days with drumming. That's the thing. This is not a backing band. It's like an amazing band that joined Elvis. They're a great band in their own right.
See, it's a gift, probably a gift and a curse at the same time.
Yeah.
A gift at the fact that he was able to play with Elvis throughout the 70s, but at the same time, it's all he would probably ever get asked all the time.
Anytime the babes rush me at the mall, they go, "Hi, Brent, great show. How's Leon? What's he like?" And I'm like, "Oh, God. It's all about Leon, isn't it? Don't you want to know what it's like for me?" And when we put that little sign that said, "Sorry, girls, he's married," on that one video we did, it was like when they found out John Lennon was married on Ed Sullivan. It just broke the hearts of women across the YouTube world. But no, but this kind of tied into a joke Leon and I were saying about filming a future segment of Behind the Music, like 10 years, what's going to happen from now, and the violent breakup between Leon and I's collaborations, how the drugs, the women, and the fast life just totally destroyed our careers in YouTube history. No, but that's what it is. Like, if I were to have Mr. Tutt here with me, a few questions about Elvis here and there just to kind of round out some corners, but I would also like to hear about him because...
Was it like playing with Roy Orbison?
Thank you. What was it like knowing Jerry Garcia?
Yeah.
Billy Joel? And not only that, but what is Mr. Tutt, what drummers have inspired you? How did you come up with your own style of it? And that's the thing I want to explore, because I said from the beginning, I never want to just explore Elvis. It has to do with the Elvis legend and all of those people attached to it. That's why I think on it was either our first or second Elvis Nation, we reacted to some James Burton videos because it was his birthday. And just amazing talents in their own right. And, and I think Mr. Tutt can just know that he gave the world something amazing.
I did.
How many people could say that at the end of their life?
No, that's very true.
Mine's going to say, here's Brent, he incurred debt.
Yeah, know that feeling.
Here's Brent, he collected crap, he needs to get rid of it. Let's see. Elvis always took time to acknowledge his and backup singers. Always and that's.
Well, it's funny because Gary should say that, Brent, because you reacted to I think it was you put a reaction up to "Let It Be Me," a single reaction I think it was last week you did it. And there's another performance of "Let It Be Me" where Elvis actually shouts "Spotlight" for James Burton's solo and wants the spotlight on James Burton, not him. He wants the spotlight, and that kind of backs exactly what Gary was saying there. Elvis wanted his own musicians to be recognised for what they were. And that's why the solos came in 75. Apart from there was also another reason he came in. It was to give Elvis a breather. But the solos came in, and a lot of the band members didn't like the solos. But what the solos did was they actually gave the band members their own spot on the show.
And people say, well, why wait until 75? But people don't understand. What we know is like the formula for popular concerts today. they were still kind of putting that arena thing together. Do you know what I mean? Like arena rock shows were still in their relative infancy at that time. They were still making up things as they go. So now today, every show you go and go, here's our drummer, so-and-so, and they do their, but that wasn't always the formula at concerts. Yeah. And I think that's another thing. I got the vibe, like I'm not Elvis's mind reader, but I think like he not only saw them as colleagues, I felt like he was almost a fan of their talent. Like,
yeah, oh, there's no doubt.
Like I'm just in awe of what you are able to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, Elvis always introduced James Button as his favourite guitar player. He always introduced him like that. And if you remember the last live stream that we did together, I think it was the Thursday night one a couple of weeks back there, we did the video of the band introductions from Vegas in 70. And if you remember, Elvis, when he was introducing Glenn Hardin, he didn't just introduce him as his pianist, but he actually gave Glenn Hardin the recognition of actually having arranged quite a lot of the songs that evening.
Yeah.
And that's a measure of Elvis the man. It wasn't enough for him to just go and introduce them. He actually introduced them and says his feelings on them. And of course, when he said about John Wilkinson, this is my second favourite guitar player. but then after the joke, he says, this is a good friend. He's actually a good friend of mine, and that's the sort of thing. Elvis didn't have to say any of that. All Elvis had to say was, "This is my lead guitarist James Button. This is my drum guitarist John Wilkinson. This is my drummer Ronnie Tutt. Get it done as quick as possible, and back into Elvis." But that wasn't Elvis.
No,
for Elvis,
especially when you hear of tales of some solo artists just seeing their own backup bands as beneath them or something. You know, I've heard sordid tales from, music industry, and it takes a lot of class to have that kind of respect for your musicians. And I think too, like you said earlier, what Ronnie really did is people don't understand I guarantee you, if Ronnie was not the great drummer he was, the whole band itself would still sound good, but not as good.
No, I agree. I totally agree. And that goes back to what I said earlier on. You could probably replace James Button with another very, very accomplished and very good lead guitarist, another rhythm guitarist in James Button, and probably another pianist from Glenn Hardin, even if you take away the fact that Glenn Hardin did a lot of arranging for Elvis. But I think the two hardest members of the TCB band to replace would be Jerry Schiff and Ronnie Tutt.
I gotta admit though, that's a bold statement though, because Burton is, I know you see him as amazing and all that, but I think what some people might not get when you're talking about that is bass and drums are so fundamental to the foundation, where like guitar is added flair, to a degree. So it's easy to kind of bring, not easy, but it's a little more interchangeable because like bass and drums are so vital to the foundation of a composition that if you have those wrong, you're just screwed no matter how great your guitar player is.
Yeah, see, James is and I want to just clarify what I mean about James Button especially. I think, as I say, as you said, I think James Button is a fantastic guitarist, a fundamental and really important member of the TCB band. However, had Elvis appointed another guitarist, it would probably have been an extremely good guitarist who could probably have done what James Button did. I just think that where Ronnie and Jerry they were so compatible with Elvis. I think that's the important thing. And I think if you can you imagine, for example, something like Polk Saladani, the original without Jerry Schiff. Now you can hear it without Jerry Schiff, and it's not the same because Jerry Schiff took a sabbatical for a year. And when his place was filled by Duke Bardwell, for example, the song just doesn't drive as well. And Duke Bardwell's a fantastic bassist, but it's just not the same. And I think that it would be the same without the TCB band would have been the same without Ronnie.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. And, you know, so when someone is that much of like a linchpin that, you know, that you are such an integral part of a sound that it could fall, like I said, like that proverbial house of cards. I mean, even though you have all these other great parts, but, you know, it's sort of like you have a car where you have this amazing interior, just an awesome paint job. You have the best carburetor ever designed, but something in the engine just falls short. It doesn't matter how great those other parts are.
Yeah, absolutely right, absolutely right. But again, like everything else, it's we'll never know because every time James Burton now just became such an integral part of the show, and it's hard to hear an Elvis show without James Burton, because he's got that very distinctive guitar style as well. So even in something like Polk Salad, Danny, it's difficult to imagine it without James Burton on it. Despite what I said there.
Well, and you know what? I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I think we should dedicate next week's collaboration in Ronnie's memory.
Yeah,
I mean,
because
and for those of you, I'm not trying to sell here. I'm dead serious. We're taking this into the next stage as far as our collaborations go, and it just the timeliness of this is kind of eerie, if you ask me. So. You know, I think we're going to, you know, try to put our best foot forward and give our, not that we don't usually give it our best, but really just try to keep that in mind that I want to think in my head that Elvis and Mr. Tutt, not that I have that big of an ego, but that they would be looking down on this and going, well, this is kind of cool that younger people compared to them are picking up on this stuff. And I can't wait till next weekend, and it's going to be a little bittersweet.
It is. Yeah, of course it is. But we'll give it everything it deserves.
Yeah, I want to, you know, even though I don't know if this is an official memorial, I don't know. I just kind of said, I just felt this impulse: go live today. Don't just do like a little video recording or something. You need the people all together. You need, and, you know, I didn't know who had planned what today. So I'm so grateful to everyone out there who has showed up. And I know that a lot of you probably had plans on Sunday or doing other things, and I couldn't be more appreciative. And I know it's a nighttime thing to a lot of people in GMT time. So, which is repetitive. GMT stands for, it's like ATM machine. It's like, let's see, over here in the comments, it's Tutt Chef. Any way you look at it, man.
Yeah.
I mean, let's see. Elvis had great admiration for his musicians, singers, and he clearly wanted the fans. See, that's another thing. Yeah, he wanted their fans to really appreciate them as well. And how many like solo artists can you really think about that? You know what I mean? Like you could see certain solo artists and they could go 5 years after one tour and you don't even notice if they changed up the bassist or the, you know what I mean? And I'm not denigrating them or taking away their talent from them or minimalizing it. But I think a lot of those musicians, just to be playing with, I don't know, ranging from Barbra Streisand to Barry Manilow, you got to be damn good. But I think with this just takes it a few notches above into the stratosphere.
Yeah, definitely.
And so, you know, I want everybody to enjoy themselves next weekend, even though there'll be a bittersweet thing. But I'm going to tell you what, we're going to give you guys the best presentation you have ever seen in your, well, not in your lives, but I doubt we compare to Liberace or something. But you know what, man? I saw Springsteen in concert, but then I saw Leon and Brent, and I'm like, screw Springsteen, Leon and Brent. No, not in your life, but no, but I'm telling you what, as far as what we've done yet, I believe we're taking this to a whole new place.
Yep.
And Leon, what are you feeling about next week? Do you got jitters or anything? I kind of do in a way, man.
I just hope it all goes nicely and flows nicely. I hope the live stream next week just flows just nicely, because I think what we'll feel disappointed when it finishes. Not because what we've did hasn't been very good, it's just because it's finished. We'll have done the whole show and then we'll go, is that it?
You know what? I'm telling you, I dead serious, man. Whenever I'm doing my reactions to your stuff for our projects, when I know it's the last video, there's this little moment of I was just encapsulated in one of the most beautiful, harmonious spaces that my spirit could occupy.
Yep.
And the minute I'm done with this, it's back to the real world, into editing hell. And it's like, as much as I love putting this together, the editing can be a nightmare, but I'm taken away from that moment where you're just away from everything. You're honing in on something that is sacred, something that is just giving you a sense of bliss that you cannot even measure, even with heaven's yardstick. And it is. And so I think, like, there are some of those moments where I'm reacting to stuff like that you put together, and it's almost like I don't want it to end.
Yeah.
Because this is it's the proverbial, oh God, this sounds horrible, but it's a proverbial heroin needle in my arm. It's like, now I got to go and get sober.
I think next week will feel like that.
I know. We're going to have to go to rehab after or something, like, man, I need my Elvis fix, man. Except I don't steal people's televisions in exchange for an Elvis fix at 2 a.m. That's the difference between this addiction.
It's going to be, next week will be so special because for a couple of reasons. One, as I say, we've just did the stage rehearsal and now we move on to the opening night. So not only is it the 10th of August 1970 opening show, but you're going to hear the very first live versions of so many songs that are so, and that's, and I've deliberately haven't put anything like that in your direction at all. So I think there might be one, maybe two in there that you've heard before. Maybe two that you've seen before. I think that's about it.
And I have no inside knowledge about what's going to be played or anything. Leon's going to send me when it's time for us to react to whatever one we're reacting to. He's going to punch it up and send it to me. So this is going to be a look of total surprise. I can't wait for it. I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it. And like I said, it's a mixed emotions bag because we're mourning the loss of Ronnie Tutt. But another part of me, I'm excited because we're going to just totally celebrate and bask in that beauty, that sublime place that our ships get to sail to. And may it never leave our consciousness because there's just no better place to be. And so when you think about it, Mr. Tutt's mortal shell might have, ran out of steam like ours all will one day. But boy, did he leave us something organic, though.
Oh, definitely.
We're going to feed off of that spiritually for generations to come.
Yeah, I think you're right.
It's going to make people say, oh my gosh, did you, that's what I don't know how it's going to be, but I don't know, maybe in a spaceship 200 years from now, these aliens land and they go, they're saying in their little subtitles, what is this I'm hearing? And you hear, we're caught in a trap, and they're going, this moves me. This earth music moves me. And that's what I would like to envision. But wow, you know what? It is 4:15. I thought I was just going to go on for like 45 minutes, make it short and sweet. But you know what? I am very thankful for you, Leon, for popping in today. I know
you're welcome.
It's Sunday night, and I want to thank everybody else out there for this. Now, because we reacted to some videos, I just got to let you guys know before we go that even though we can play this stuff live, a lot of these things get blocked the minute the live stream goes into processing by YouTube. So it might take about 28 days before I clear it out, before the copyright gets cleared. So, I mean, I have streams that I did 3.5 weeks ago that are still not available yet to replay. It's really weird. They'll let you play it live, but then they'll block every song on there after, and their block time is 28 days. So, that's what I'm telling you guys. Don't just assume, I could catch it the next day, next week, because no, you will not be able to hear what we did for probably about a month. And so all the more reasons to cancel your plans. If it was your brother or sister's wedding, say, screw it. Brent and Leon are having an Elvis special. Come on. You could get married anytime, but how often is this going to happen? I'm joking. But no, but in all seriousness, I want to thank everybody involved in Ronnie Tutt, just a man among men and a great drummer whose presence will be missed. And Leon, we're just going to have to make next week that much more special.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right.
Well, I wanna. Yeah, they can't put ads on. They can do it. Sarah said they can't put ads on the live. True to a degree. They can do it before you go onto the live feed if they put ads. Okay, but they can't do it while we're running it. So that's why. Yeah, she's exactly right. Looking forward to next week. Thank you so much for tonight. Thank you, Joe, Sarah, Gary, Klevik. I don't know how to pronounce. I never could pronounce your name. It's Cleveland something. Klevik. Gary, Gordon, all of you guys, TMS, Joe. Thank you all. And if I didn't mention you, I will read this after and say a thank you prayer to all of you guys. Thank you, Leon, for popping in like this under exigent circumstances. And we will see you all. If you haven't caught the special yet, Leon, they can still catch it today. Not only that, before we go, I want everybody to know on the community tab, I put the link toward Leon's original playlist for what we reacted to on this week's special. So if you've already watched the special, go and hear it. If you haven't watched yet, especially go and see the playlist first because it makes the special more complete. We will see you. We got Elvis Nation Show Wednesday, Thursday, live stream. And then Sunday, the biggest thing I can honestly say unequivocally that we have ever done on this channel. So TCB, all my friends, God bless you, Mr. Tutt, and we will see you all very soon.